Welcome back to our continuing study on the Gospel of Matthew. We are Matthew chapter 21. I'm going to be reading from the Revised Standard Translation. I'm reading in verses 21 and 22 of Matthew chapter 21. And Jesus answered them, "Truly I say to you, if you have faith and never doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to the mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, it will be done. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith." The center of the Christian life is faith. And in order to understand faith, we have to start with the obvious, which is we cannot see God. The reality of God in that way is not something material. And here we make a very general sort of generalization, I guess we could say, that our interfacing with the world around us is by our senses. We touch, we taste, we hear, we smell, we see. That is how we interact with the world around us. But God is non-material. In order to take hold of God, we have to suspend the normal way of doing things. The normal way of doing things, of course, is one of those five senses. Faith is the bridge between ourselves and God. Faith is absolutely necessary, for God is transcendent. God is not one with the created order. God, as it were, ultimately stands outside the created order and therefore beyond the realm of senses. The issue is that it is hard for us to believe that there is something beyond the experience of our senses. Now, let us be clear here. Faith is not at odds with reason. You often hear proponents of a scientific approach to life say that science and religion are at odds with each other. This cannot be strictly true, for they represent two different approaches. We do not mean that they are opposed to each other, but two different approaches. If I live in the great city of New York City, and I want to go to the city of Los Angeles in the great state of California, I could proceed to go to the airport and take an airplane to Los Angeles. Or I could proceed to go to the bus terminal and take a bus to New York City, or from New York City to Los Angeles. Now, those are two different approaches to Los Angeles. We would not say that those two approaches are at odds to each other. They represent two different approaches. To go from how the universe was created to argue that these two ways to get to our Los Angeles are in conflict would be nonsense. The problem in the practice of science is often that there are leaps and conclusions that are not based on reason. In that case, it is faith which can take the next step. Cosmology can offer up to us an explanation of how the universe was formed, but it cannot from that reason why it happened or by whom it happened. To go from how the universe was created to an assertion that there is no God is to leave reason behind and make a faith assertion. In other words, it's as much a faith assertion to say that there is no God, because you cannot ultimately prove it, and it is not reasonable on the basis of how we say the universe was created. So that is a faith assertion as much as the person who says that there is God. To go back to our illustration, we need to tweak it. You can we can say that reason can tell us how to get to Los Angeles. So in other words, reason can provide the ways in which we can get to Los Angeles. But notice, reason in that sense cannot provide us why we want to go to Los Angeles. Reason does not work in terms of that. The point is, that is not the function of reason. Faith in our illustration supplies the reason why we are going to Los Angeles. Life is ultimately about purpose and direction, and that is what only faith in Jesus Christ can provide. Reason cannot ultimately provide that. These questions of value lie outside the realm of science and reason. Faith is powerful, says Jesus in these two verses, because faith connects us to God. Jesus is using hyperbole here. Understand that the point is not that we can move mountains. The point is that in the belief in and the practice of faith, there are all sorts of possibilities. People approach faith as something dark and mysterious, which in a sense it is. It is dark and mysterious, for the hearts of humans are dead to the reality of God. Reason is no substitute for faith, or for that matter, is faith a substitute for reason? They each have their place, but reason apart from the faith is the same as thinking that are having a conversation, and when in point of fact, you're all by yourself in an echo chamber. Prayer is where we make faith an active part of our life. Prayer, in that sense, is understanding that life is meant to be lived in constant conversation with the God who created the universe. Faith is a necessary part and component of life, and through prayer, we make our faith real and actual.